Well, hello, everybody. It's me again. And you're thinking, geez, Mike, it's been a really long time. And you would be right. Basically, I've been busy, distracted, busy. Pick one. Um, but I'm going to talk about, I think, what it means, maybe. Let's say this what it means to the regular person when we talk about spiritual growth. And again, we're not growing, we're refining, right? Or the spiritual path, the notion of oneness, the idea all things are one thing and all things are God things. Yeah, all things are God things, including you and your things. The meaning of that and what that means to you, and how you go about engaging in a process of some kind. Most of us here are not living in a monastery, living on a mountain in the Himalayas, living out in a remote village, or living in a cave. None of us are guru, sitting on a pillow that everybody climbs to the peak to see, right? We all have lives, such as they are, that we're living, that we already have established, right? So you don't stop and think, oh, well, I need to just walk out on my life and just sit and meditate 24/7 for a few years. And, that doesn't happen. Well, not very often anyway. And why should you? Why should you even bother incorporating any sort of thought in this process, right? I know for the most part, people tend to just think of life as something they're skiing through, right? You're just kind of passing on, you're just doing whatever it is you are doing. Some of you just work whatever job happens to be enough to support you, or you just whatever happens to be available, or maybe you've sought out a career and you're working whatever that career is, or you're one of those few people who was successful at like a achieving a dream or a goal, and you're like, yes, I've made it, I've done it, I've succeeded. And a lot of you don't even bother. Yeah, I'd say most of us. I was one of these people. You don't even bother almost worrying about it because you're so busy just thinking, how do I survive tomorrow? Which is toxic thinking, but it's still there. So you don't even bother really spending an ounce of thought or attention on the entire subject. Even those who succeed at life often are driven by a need for distraction, which we all have. Everybody distracts themselves with the world around them, with society, with, technology, entertainment, addictions, various relationships, so social arenas, all sorts of things, jobs and careers, and just whatever it happens to be, are really all distractions. Why do we even need societies built on money one way or the other? Doesn't matter what kind of society you think it is all of them are built on a value exchange system of some kind. All of them. Not even worrying about the rules people might apply to them, different societies might use, or what structures, or any of that. Just the idea of it to begin with. So, why is it there? And how would you navigate all of that in a pursuit of spiritual refinement, right? And the short answer is because there's nothing else really of intrinsic value, right? Nothing else is going to be of worth or even real except what we achieve spiritually, right? So that's the only thing that's going to be with us always, and it's always there. So in most people, again, I know plenty of people, I've worked with plenty of people who are going to say, well, that's great, and I should do that, I probably should, you're probably right, oh well, and then just go back and not bother. It's just they don't have that wherewithal. So why would we bother? Why does anybody bother? You know, my wife and I talk about plenty of times, like, if we didn't go through all of the difficulties, would we still land in the spot we're in now, which I wouldn't trade for anything. I would never trade all that I know and have experienced and seen and heard and everything else just for a slightly less tumultuous life. You know, I would never, it's inconceivable to be anyone else than who I am now. And I don't have any desire to be anything else than what I am. My only desire is really to be the best or the most authentic me. And a lot of people in society are going to tell you, well, Mike, what does it mean to be authentic? Oh, I'm going to dress the way I want and do my hair the way I want, and I'm being me, you know, I'm authentically me. I say what I like and I behave however it is, and that's just how I am. And that's a bunch of crap. Okay, it's just BS, because all of that are just things that you have accepted and taken on and mistaken for yourself. None of that matters. None of it is you. And it's sad, 99.9% of the human population cheapen themselves thinking this way. They reduce themselves in their own minds, you know, by thinking any of that matters and any of that has any impact on anything. So why would you cling to it so desperately instead of pursuing something more valuable, or something of value rather than something of no value? And the only thing I can say, I guess, is accepting what you are, or trying to. I don't know if anybody 100% accepts, you know, even the most enlightened highest ascended master, guru, Swami, yogi, any, you know, whatever, there's likely always a layer that is outside your cognitive reach. However, it does not mean you cannot come to a connection with yourself, if that makes sense. It's not, which I know it's not really a connection because it's already there. I mean, it's already there. It's already you. You are just shifting focus to it, more and more of your attention to that, if that makes maybe a little better sense. That's the art of refinement, is removing your focus, removing your gaze from the distraction, the falsehoods, pretty much everything that is not God spark, right, is false. And it doesn't mean, yes, my table is just part of the false structure, right? It's not evil. It's not an evil table. It's part of the structure. I hope it's not evil. I made it. So it's still part of the structure. It doesn't make the thing itself as evil, but the things around us can be malefic, and even malefic serves a purpose, but it doesn't mean you acquiesce to it. So there just has to be a point where you decide, I'm tired of being miserable or unhappy or shallow happy. People think they're happy, but it's really a shallow passing feeling that they have to constantly bolster. Or I had a guy one time, this was years ago, to one of my many blue collar jobs, and he was just talking about his mom getting on to him about his diet, and he was a grown up. It wasn't like a little kid. I mean, he was probably in his late 20s. I was exceedingly older than that at the time. But I show up at these places, and it doesn't take long for people to recognize I'm not eating junk. I don't go around telling people what to do and how to eat, but they always invariably notice and then start asking. So by this point, people already know, and they always want to talk about it or ask me things. And he's going, yeah, I'm sitting here eating his gummy bears or whatever it was, and he's like, my mom gets on to me too and tells me I should do better. I was like, well, but eating gummy bears makes me happy, so I eat gummy bears. Now, I've had a couple of people. I had someone else like, oh, their doctor, oh, you're killing yourself with this diet. They're diagnosed with all kind of thyroid disorders and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Well, I'm just going to eat like I am, and then I'll just die happy with all, it's like, no, it's not. See, that's the thing. Those things are not happiness. That you don't even know what happy is. That's not happiness. That's distraction from what makes you notice your negative self, what makes you notice that you're depressed, that makes you notice that you're anxious or that you're unhappy. So you use things that distract you from what makes you notice how really bad off you are, and you call that happiness. And that's, of course, a big old waste of time, because it won't fix anything and you won't really get anywhere. So you have to just decide, maybe I want to know what happiness is. Maybe I want to feel better about myself. Maybe I don't want to live miserable. Maybe I don't want to live. Maybe you're somebody who has means, an affluent person can just as easily be depressed as anything else. I think a few years ago, the stats on jackpot lottery winners was like around about half of them all commit suicide after winning. Right? It's not that the money makes you kill yourself, is that you suddenly realize, oh, this didn't fix anything. And some people just dig their heels in and pursue whatever their practice of distraction is. Just double down on it. And it's all useless, of course, and it won't ever make you really happy. And then now, why would we pursue the kind of thing you're talking about, Mike, as opposed to a religion? Because a lot of people get into religion and they say, oh, it changed my life. I got saved. I got this. I got that. It turned me around. Well, a lot of times it's simply acknowledging the higher purpose in the universe of creation of yourself. And I think that serves a big purpose and goes a long way. Now, that being said, I've known plenty of people in the religious community who did all the right things, said all the right things, living the right life, and still end up in a bad place. You know, I've actually known a few that committed suicide, and, you know, there's still something missing. And you can't just say, well, they just didn't believe it hard enough, you know, they didn't do it right, or, you know, something was not, some need was not met, right? Something was not getting done, and it wasn't, attention wasn't given to the right things. Let's say that, maybe. And you can't rely on it. You can't rely on this notion that, well, I'm doing all the right things and just, you know, I'm going to church, or well, I'm an atheist and I don't believe in any of that anyway, so it doesn't matter. Just do whatever whatever you like to do, whatever makes you feel good, and then you just, you know, turn back into dirt when you die, and that's it. You know, neither thing is worth wasting your energy on, really. And the concepts of the afterlife religion portrays are all, of course, ridiculous, in the sense that you portray the afterlife as just a perfected version, or what you think of, I should say, as a perfected version of here. You know, of course, you're not going to have a physical, you know, dwelling or a palace or a structure. I mean, none of that's going to be, you know, you're not going to have, well, let's not go off on a tangent, but you know what I'm getting at. You can't think of it in terms of being a physical place and having all of these three-dimensional materialistic parameters that would apply. That's silly. So this is why you would pursue what is true. The only thing you can say for sure is true is that you are here. You are you. I am me. You are self-aware. And that's really all you need to start. Pay attention. Become more self-aware. Yeah. And then that's why you need to think about pursuing self-refinement. So self-realization, some say. I think refinement sounds a little better, because that's kind of what you're doing. Is you know, you don't start off with a chunk of gold or something that already looks like a little shiny ignet. It starts off, you know, full of all kind of impurities and caked in other things. I mean, you refine it to get it to its purest form. And that's what you're trying to do, refine yourself. And then you'll know your actual self and your true self and what matters when you start getting rid of the nonsense. So you don't have to be miserable. You don't have to be tired in your spirit or in your mind. You don't have to live shallow or pointless, you know. You know, I know that there's a lot of people who just disregard the entire thing and think just living by whatever made up moral standard they've decided to accept, and that's enough, and just go, oh, I'm good, yep, and that's fine if that's the life you want to live. I'm not telling any of you, you're going to go to hell or something if you don't do this. That's not how that works. That's not the case. That's not a place you're just going to randomly end up, right? I don't think that's how that works. I'm about to go off on another tangent. We're running out of time. Anyway, that's all. I just think about who you are and what that really means, because who you are is actually what you are. You are not anything other than what you are, and everything beyond the what is excess, right? You are the oneness. God is one. We are one. You are not just like some little speck of thing that was just, hey, I'm going to create something over here and create something over there. No, you are part of what God is. I tell you what, I'll let this one go before it gets long, and I'll get into that maybe in just a minute and post it some other time. But yeah, just know who you are by knowing what you are. All right.